amazing, phenomenal weekend, and I want to share parts of it with you because life is so hard for so many, and we really owe it to ourselves to not let anyone control our bodies and nervous systems and put us in that dorsal vagal shutdown, despair, despondence, hopelessness, overwhelm, dissociation, feeling hopeless and helpless. So I'm seeing it as if the weekend kind of inoculated me against some of the despair. Welcome to episode 115 of the Souls to Soul Care for Trauma and AuDHD podcast. This is Mighty Maeve. I have quite a precarious setup today. I'm in a different room to normal, so I'm hoping that she doesn't send everything flying. She now thinks this is a game. But each week with the Souls to Soul Care podcast for Trauma and AuDHD, it's about learning to love and care for all your parts, from the soles of your feet to your soul. And there are new episodes every Tuesday. You can access full transcripts and show notes and older episodes at soulstosoul.ie/podcast. And you can also kind of subscribe wherever you listen or watch podcasts, so like YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all the rest of them. So links in that page as well, or just Google it, or wherever you're watching or listening now, feel free to subscribe. That would be lovely. I really hope you enjoy this episode. I was just saying to the cats, I think I had the best weekend of my life, even though I'm very tired after it, and promptly nearly broke my thumb. So this happens quite a bit over my life, where one time I was on a beach in Essex walking along, I'm so happy, and promptly fell into the sea in my clothes. Another time I was running down the back garden, I am so happy, promptly dropped my phone and broke it. It was still an amazing, phenomenal weekend, and I want to share parts of it with you because life is so hard for so many, and we really owe it to ourselves to not let anyone control our bodies and nervous systems and put us in that dorsal vagal shutdown, despair, despondence, hopelessness, overwhelm, dissociation, feeling hopeless and helpless. So I'm seeing it as if the weekend kind of inoculated me against some of the despair. And I also recognise I'm going to need regular boosters, which I'll talk about later. But it was just amazing. So we had Mayo Pride at the weekend, which is just always so lovely to see. Just, I think any kind of love is just so divine. In the last census, I put love and nature, I think, for religion. It just feels so healing for the town and for the world. And I went to see Panti Bliss on Friday night as the first night of Pride with a couple of friends, and it was just divine. It was so gorgeous, and she was talking about how dancing when the world despises you is in itself a radical act. And it's like, of course it is. I mean, that's how Pride began, isn't it? It was a survival thing. People were supposed to be invisible and criminalized, and it was horrific. So it was really interesting that she ended the show kind of talking about intersectionality. And then yesterday I was lucky enough to see Kimberlé Crenshaw, who coined the term intersectionality, in Dublin. And it meant just 3.5 hours sleep the night before and a crazy amount of travel over the weekend for me. Other people do much more, but I did more this weekend than I do most months. But just thinking it really is the case that we are all connected, and it's about looking out for ourselves and for other people and speaking out. But something also that she said on the Friday night, so I cried as well as laughing loads. It was really, really funny, but also really, really moving. The show was If These Wigs Could Talk, in case you get an opportunity to see it near you. But at a certain point, she was like, we're all suspending disbelief, and I'm probably misquoting it, paraphrasing it. I certainly don't remember it, AuDHD brain. But it was essentially, she was completely fabulous and completely confident and completely like, yay, loving every fibre of her being. And it was glorious to see. And she said that we're all buying into the belief that she is beautiful. And everyone laughed. And I haven't been able to stop thinking about it all weekend, because she is utterly beautiful. And Derek, who I didn't recognise until he spoke at the Pride March on the Saturday, was in his cornflake girl drag. And anyone, whether a drag queen or whether expressing their whole selves in any way, is beautiful, and it's inspiring, and it's fabulous and flamboyant and encouraging and allowing and inspiring and transformational. It's art. And yeah, it's just, so I thought I'd do this solo episode after a lot of interview episodes, guest episodes, and think, look into your own lives. Think of the times in which you feel helpless, hopeless, the times you wish you felt more confident and able to speak out, the times you feel run down and hurt and like despairing about it all. And ask yourself how it might feel to dance, how it might feel to bring joy in. The Kimberlé Crenshaw event yesterday, Dr. Eben Joseph was facilitating and interviewing her, and there were performers before and after, and it was just a really gorgeous day. And I can't remember what she was talking about. It was something like about horrific racism in Ireland, which is horrific, and the people who minimise it. And it's not all trolls, it is very much humans as well, who are somehow missing every logical point about the Irish immigration diaspora. Um, I'm not going to go into anything here. I'm going to focus on the joy. And she was talking about the need to find humour and to laugh, but also just, it was such a joyous belated celebration of Africa Day, and people from across the continent. I look white, I sound English, I'm Indian Irish. My mother was born and raised in Kenya, and I went to an African Diaspora Day, probably for an Africa Day, a long, long time ago in London, and it was really, really lovely, but very much on a stage and on a. This was a gorgeous, like, hotel function room, just so much joy in the room, so much inclusion, so much celebration, so much fully ourselves. Um, I went to a V-Day conference when I first went freelance, 2004. It was a Women in Power conference, organised to end violence against women and girls. Eve Ensler, who wrote the Vagina Monologues, who created V-Day, and my first ever press conference there, like Sally Field, Jane Fonda, Eve Ensler, Gloria Steinem. I had to leave, but I got to meet her. It was incredible. But I remember there was dancing at different points during this like 3 day conference, and there were amazing speakers. And I was in my 20s, and I hadn't done my trauma recovery. Hadn't I was beginning to process it. I was beginning to, but I was so disembodied. Oh my goodness. And people would be dancing in the aisles at certain points, and it was just like, ooh. Yesterday I was joining in with the singing, I was joining in with the dancing, and recognizing how much healing. It just felt so celebratory, and just thinking about how healing and how transformational the power of love is. And so for today's episode, I want to share a bit. So basically, there was the drag show on the Friday night, the Saturday morning, then kind of packing, getting ready for Pride, meeting some Social Democrat lovely people. I joined the Social Democrats when I was feeling so hopeless and helpless last week, after I organised a very small vigil to honour Eve Sakila in Westport to send love across the country to Dublin. And I got so much hate online in local groups. And I've always been like, Westport meets all my criteria. Like a friend said, Westport meets all your criteria before I immigrated here. I've always had an Irish passport. I'm an Irish citizen. I've got Irish blood. It's the first time I've lived somewhere with a blood link. But I'm an immigrant. I moved here for a better life. I moved here to get away from the toxic hate after the Brexit vote, where all of a sudden it felt like people were celebrating the horrors of empire instead of trying to make reparations or things I thought. Anyway, it's horrifying seeing things like that here. A lot of it is bots, a lot of it is humans. I know I saw a friend's brother post one of the hateful comments and all the messages I was getting. And I did go to the guards because someone in one of the groups I'd posted in was basically like, you need to speak to the guards. And it's like, well, it might just be me. I'm not like, but I ended up showing them the message, some of the messages, and they were really sweet. Said, let me know if you need anything. There are only 12 of us, but it felt better to do something rather than nothing. And also my like hope and faith in wondrous Westport was restored, talking to loads of gorgeous lovely people. The kindness of some of them made me feel like crying, but again recognizing me putting on a Black Lives Matter t-shirt, feeling more vulnerable, it's something I can put on and take off. And it's just horrifying that you need to say that Black Lives Matter. That, like, of course, all lives matter, but not in the co opted way like white lives matter. White lives have always mattered. Um, I'm very much going off on tangents. So, some of the other gorgeousness of the weekend was snorkeling on Achill, seeing my love, and meeting up with old sub-aqua friends and rejoining as a visiting member, which feels much more sustainable. But being there for the one night, lovely food, feeling adventurous, driving places I'd never driven before, and it was a gorgeous snorkel, meeting new people, being able to drive and being able to stay out late for dinner and then drive back, getting home crazy o'clock Sunday night, only to leave stupid o'clock yesterday morning on 3.5 hours sleep, then crossing the country to get the train to Dublin, and then like getting so lost. And I think being so sleep deprived, it was like I'd never left the house before, let alone being from London. I was not citying very well. I looked like a complete tourist. I was emptying out my bag accidentally. But it was just a gorgeous, gorgeous day. And I think the more we do that brings us joy, the more we do that takes us out of our comfort zones in safe ways, that helps us build community and just remember that we're all connected. Remember the delight. So I'm going to go back. I should be rewinding. I should have scripted this probably, but I didn't want to. So, in terms of the weekend, I did make a couple of notes. So, yep. So I don't want to forget everything I wanted to say. So Kimberlé Crenshaw has this phenomenal book, which I meant to put next to me here when I was recording, and I'm going to bring it over now. So, so Kimberlé Crenshaw has this gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous book, Backtalk, and I've been listening to it for the past several days. And my anxiety paid off. I was so stressed about missing the last train back to Westport. I spoke to one of the people working there, organising the event, and she actually saved me a copy because they sold out. And I've been listening to it on audiobook read by the author. Absolutely phenomenal. I'm not academic. I'm not I met lots of like kind of PhDs, lots of doctors yesterday, and one of them was saying about how amazingly accessible she makes it all, Kimberlé Crenshaw, and it's like, yes, as in I understood a lot of it, I didn't understand all of it, but it was enough to give me hope. In the book, she is sharing a lot about her life growing up and the times she realized about injustice in different intersections. So, for example, her family, she remembers being really small and her whole family being against racism and helping her become a proud black girl, black woman, but not recognizing the sexism at play in rules in the house and in the world. And she was always questioning. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book. And the last question that I heard before I had to go and find my train and miss the last questions and a performance that looked like it was going to be amazing, she was asked about hope. And this is the feel part of the feel love heal framework that I developed. So feel is about self-care, regulating yourself, doing what helps you feel better. So it might be going for a swim, it might be whatever it might be. How can I, when I have the bandwidth, do something that's going to help me feel better? It might be doing laundry, it might be taking a nap, it might be whatever it might be, going for a run, but it's something that you're changing what you're doing, you're feeling into what you're doing. So Kimberlé Crenshaw talked about hope and responsibility and actually not being too in your feelings. And I know my partner had been worried about me being, I'm a big feelings AuDHD. It explains so much about my entire life, and I cry a lot. And I know that's healing, and I process, and it's all good. I'm happier than I've ever been at 50. But at the same time, it's hard being a human, seeing so much pain being sadistically inflicted on others. I mean, it's bad enough with people kind of dying, disease, suffering in ways that can't be helped. But when you see the sadism, I'm not going to make myself cry now. She was talking basically, it was a reminder to not go into that dorsal vagal, that freeze, that hopelessness, that despair. If we do that, we're basically on the other side. We need to do what helps us feel better. And she just said about not being too in your feelings. And it's like, yep, I can in create an introject off her voice and hopefully pull myself out sooner, not wallow. Like in Buddhist and yogic philosophy, you're wanting to be mindful, you're wanting to notice the feelings, but not indulge them, not wallow, not get hooked into them, not be paralyzed by them, whether that's feeling really good, whether that's like feeling terrible, whatever it is, everything moves, and holding lightly. So moving into the love part, and I said a bit about Panti Bliss on the Friday night, and just the love. It felt like being part of that parade. I was going to meet the Social Democrat local group that I'd just joined, and I thought I was going to meet them and watch the parade, but no, we were in the parade. So that was really weird, but really lovely. And it just felt like just sending so much love to every fibre of Westport, which is just such a gorgeous, gorgeous place. I'm so lucky to live here. Just accepting all of it, accepting, for example, I am emotional. I do get upset about what goes on in the world a lot. I probably get more upset about that than stuff. I know with the AuDHD, I know justice sensitivity. I know I'll be hopefully talking to an expert on that coming fairly soon on the podcast. But it doesn't help anyone if I wallow. So it's accepting the feelings, accepting the feeling of despair, accepting the feeling of how on earth are we going to, and then recognizing with the celebratory, loving, yes, it's hard work. The organisers, oh my goodness, for both events, what they put in to make it all go off so beautifully and to facilitate so much for so many people and curate such joy in like both the celebrating Africa Day yesterday, belatedly, time of recording, and Pride, Mayo Pride over the weekend. Just so I'm at a bit of a loss for words thinking about everything that must have gone into all of that, and how it leads me into the community part, the heal part. So the love part is going backwards. I really should have made better notes, I think. I'm going to accept that I didn't want to. The love part is about accepting, about loving ourselves, and that was something I missed out about the gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous weekend. I had done a psychosynthesis kind of, it's every couple of months kind of thing that I can't often make, but I could make it this weekend. And I'd forgotten how lovely it is, just this reflective journaling, meditative practice, which changed my life. I'd been pretty upset the night before about something, a lot of early childhood stuff coming up for healing, and I'd said something I regretted, and I was trying to accept myself and trying to accept the other person involved. And I was like being hard on myself. And then the exercise we did on the Saturday morning, the Sunday morning, it was looking at the love and the will. And for a lot of the people in the group, they were saying that they hadn't really worked with that so consciously in a long time. But the love archetype was a huge influence for the love part of the feel, love, heal framework. And I'm in psychosynthesis when Asajoli was creating it, developing it. The will had fallen out of favor because of like the Victorian, very heavy iron fist kind of will, whereas this is more, he was so influenced by yogic philosophy, for example, and that idea of self-discipline. And you want to change something, you change it. You keep making those little movements in the direction you want to go in. It's a practice, yoga or any kind of transformation. It's all a practice. The love part, so there are different types of will. The love part is more about the accepting things exactly how they are. And sometimes the love and the acceptance of something exactly how it is all that it takes to transform it. So the idea of loving yourself, it might sound like, oh, but if I love myself too much, then I won't do anything to improve things. I won't do anything to change things. I'll get lazy. I'll get slobbish. I'll get slovenly. And it's like, no, you won't, because that's where the decolonizing ourselves comes in as well. We used to remember that we were part of the earth. We used to remember that we were part of nature, part of the divine. And that was all separated hundreds of years ago. And we can reclaim that every time we pay attention to our appetites, every time we pay attention to, like, whether you're hot or cold or want to put on another jumper or take off or whatever it might be, when you want to dance, when you want to sleep, when you want to, these are things that ADHDers, that autistic people, we often struggle with. They call it alexithymia, not knowing how you feel. That's more emotional as well, but also with physical sensations. I used to go blue as a teenager because I wouldn't recognize that I was cold and should be wearing a coat. And I was also quite rigid because I didn't want to wear anything but black for this certain time, and I didn't have a black coat. So there was that as well. So I'd have black t-shirts and purple arms. But the feel bit is the do what you can. The love bit is accept what you can't. And how acceptance, how love, how supporting yourself, putting supports in place when you know things are going to be tough. In the past, I'd have given myself such a hard time about trying to do too much this weekend, whereas this weekend it was just like, I'm tempted to show you the enormous pile of laundry behind the camera, and I'm going to. So just the state of my house at the moment, because I was away and I decided I was going to prioritize doing these amazing things that I knew would inspire me. I knew they'd like kind of fill me up and recharge my soul, my heart. And so it's having that balance, and the love bit helps you accept where you are on any given day. So I developed the framework to help with self-care whatever is happening with your bandwidth. Like sometimes it's much easier to think, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to do this active thing, and we're going to feel so much better when I clear out my house, when I, whatever it might be, when I sort my finances, when I catch up with this paperwork, when I write this chapter, whatever it might be. The love bit, it sounds simpler, but it's much harder for many, many people. And I think because of this weekend and what Panti Bliss was saying about the amount of, for example, Irish gay people who died by suicide and by being kind of killed, but the suicides were essentially murders for having been so not accepted. And what's happening now in terms of so many people deciding who gets to be Irish, who gets to be considered human and worthy and belonging, and how insane it is when none of us do anything to deserve where we're born or who we're born to. And it's about reclaiming that inherent being part of nature and celebrating yourself and singing loudly, dancing, dressing up in clothes that celebrate who you are. And I was going to say, and bring joy to others, but you don't have to bring joy to anyone else. Just bring joy to yourself. Do what makes you feel joyful. Do what makes you feel like you're celebrating yourself. So the heal part is where we turn what hurts our heart into action. And this weekend has just been a massive reminder of the importance of community and just thinking about, where do you feel like you belong? Where do you feel safe? Where do you feel welcome? Where do you feel loved? I mean, that's the basic kind of polyvagal informed approach. We need to feel safe, welcome, and loved in order to thrive. And everyone on the planet, every mammal on the planet, every creature on the planet deserves to feel safe, welcome, and loved, and then able to thrive. And I keep thinking, if every child, if every adult had the support to flourish, to be celebrated, to their unique gifts, to be nurtured and finessed, and the world's problems could be solved, and there'd be so much more joy and collaboration. And I know I sound way too old to be so idealistic, but this was how we were created. This is how we are wired. We are wired to thrive when we feel safe, welcome, and loved. And we know this now through modern neuroscience. And by not loving others, by not welcoming others, by making others unsafe, we are making ourselves unsafe. We are making ourselves less loved, less welcome. We're creating a hell on earth when there could be a heaven on earth. Oh my goodness, I did not expect to go there. Um, but think about where you feel safe, welcome, and loved. And if you don't, like even online communities like the psychosynthesis thing on the Sunday morning, then I've not met any of them in real life, but I felt so, oh, this is a community I'd even forgotten I was a part of, and how lovely it was to reconnect. Um, think about all the communities you're part of. Think about the people you love spending time with, the people you feel energized around, the people you feel less energized around, but still love. And just let yourself design your life as much as possible around what brings you joy, what lets you celebrate every fiber of your being, love every fiber of your being and of others. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And I look forward to sharing more next week. And before you go, you might want to just pause and scan your whole self from the soles of your feet to the soul, if we go with the crown chakra, the top of the head. But just notice how you feel listening to this, noticing what is activated in your body, in your energy field, what feels alive, where that charges, what your body needs. It might be like, oh, I'm thirsty, or I need to eat my dinner, or it might be, I feel lightness, bubbly effervescence, and I'm going to arrange to see that gorgeous friend I haven't seen in so long, or I'm going to hug my partner, or whatever it might be. Scan yourself from the soles of your feet to your soul and notice what you can do differently just by taking that moment to check in with yourself. That shows yourself some love, some celebration, some acceptance, and also think about what will help you feel more grounded, what will help you feel more resourced, what will help you feel safer to speak up and stand up for others when you see horrors on public transport, wherever it might be. How can you, without putting yourself in undue danger, how can you help? How can you be a force for love? How can you remember your connection to the earth and to the world at large and connecting with that sense of community? It makes me laugh how I woke up this morning and something happened, and I just had an immediate, oh, bless them. And it was almost identical to the thing that had happened on the Saturday night that had made me feel really unworthy and unlovable, and all the things I've worked so hard to overcome, to heal from. And this morning it was just like there was none of that because I was so filled up from the weekend, and I just felt so like, oh, bless. Yeah, that's so interesting. And it's a bit like when you see hideousness online, it's like the people spreading hate are so much more organized. And I know the majority of people don't agree with them, but by not showing any support for non-controversial comments, but friendly comments, it's gonna make the haters less likely to pounce. But again, feeling all filled up, feeling all having had this lovely time, feeling inoculated and making sure I get my boosters by doing more things like this as much as possible. How can you inoculate yourself? How can you give yourself boosters? What community events can you put in your calendar as regular things that you don't even have to think about? Things that just, it might be like, I don't want to kind of give too many suggestions because everyone's different, but think about communities you want to feel more connected to and how you can let yourself be held, let yourself belong, let yourself hold others. Have a delightful week, and I will see you again next time. Before you get on with something else, I'm going to encourage you to pause for a moment and scan your whole being from the soles of your feet to your soul, the crown of your head, and notice what you're aware of. Notice any physical sensations, pleasant, unpleasant, warmth, tingly, whatever it may be. Just being curious about what you're feeling as you've listened to this episode. Making a note, asking what those sensations might be trying to help you with, what you might benefit from doing for your body right now. Being aware of your thoughts, noticing any feelings that feel more prominent as a result of listening to today, and any intuitions, any insights, anything that you can actually schedule in to ground and improve your life in some way. So let me know how you get on. Make a note, doodle, journal, whatever feels good for you. And thank you for listening. This episode, like all of them, was produced by me, your host, Eve Menezes Cunningham, and I look forward to sharing more next week. You can find out more, access old episodes and free resources and more information at soulstosoulcare.ie/podcast. See you next week.